Have you ever found yourself just staring up at the stars or maybe looking really close at a leaf and you just think, how did all of this happen? Is it all just random? Well, get this. Way back over 1,500 years ago, a thinker argued that the proof of a grand design is literally everywhere. You just have to know where to look. So, what's the deal? Is our universe just chaos? A big, beautiful accident? Or is there a plan, a blueprint behind it all? I mean, that's a huge question, right? It's pretty much one of the biggest ones you can ask. Okay, so our guide for this little exploration is a guy named Theodore of Cyrus. He was a thinker way back in the 5th century, and he was convinced the answer wasn't buried in some dusty book or a crazy math problem. Nope. He said it's right there, staring us in the face. You can see it in the night sky, you can find it inside your own body, and believe it or not, you can even see it in a tiny little bee. All right, let's dive in. So, where does Theodore start? He goes big. I mean, really big. He starts with the whole cosmos. For him, the sky was basically Exhibit A, in his case, for a universe built with a purpose. And his point is pretty cool. He's basically saying the sky doesn't need to shout to get its message across. You know? It's silent, it's huge, and it runs like clockwork. That rhythm, that predictability, that is the message. It's a powerful argument for order, and all you have to do is look up. I mean, think about it. The seasons, right? We don't just jump from freezing cold winter straight into a blazing hot summer. That would be brutal. Theodore looked at spring and autumn, those gentle, gradual changes, and he saw them as a kind of built-in safety feature, a deliberate design to protect us from the shock. And this is a really key point for him. Everything has a job, a purpose. Nothing up there is just for show. The sun and moon, they give us day for work and night for rest. That's the rhythm of our entire lives. And the stars, they aren't just pretty sparkly things. Nope. They're a map, a GPS for ancient sailors and travelers. See? Everything has a purpose. Okay, so we've been out in the cosmos. Now Theodore does something really cool. He zooms all the way in, from the biggest thing imaginable to something incredibly personal, to what he thought was the ultimate proof of design, our very own bodies. So you gotta remember, he's working with the science of the 5th century, but he was totally fascinated by how we're put together. He saw the body as this incredible, perfectly engineered machine. He looked at veins and thought, okay, they're carrying blood, so they're made of these thin walls, kind of like aqueducts watering a field. But then he saw the arteries, which he thought carried this vital breath, and noticed they were tougher, double-layered. Why? To contain something more precious and lighter. For him, it was just obvious. The design perfectly matched the job it had to do. And then there's the eye. When he talks about our eyes, he stops talking like an engineer and starts talking like a general. He's like, look, our sight is maybe our most important sense, but the eye itself is so delicate. So it's not just left out in the open, it's defended, like a fortress. And his descriptions are awesome. He says your eyebrows are like ramparts on top of a castle wall, stopping the river of sweat from pouring in. And your eyelashes, they're like a fence of tiny spears, a palisade, pointed outwards to keep dust and bugs away. I mean, how cool is that? In his world, even something as tiny as an eyelash isn't an accident. It has a clear, important job. Okay, from the human body, Theodoret then looks to the animal kingdom. He finds lessons everywhere, but there's one little creature he's totally obsessed with, one that he thinks is both amazing and, honestly, a little humbling for us humans. And that's the bee. He was just blown away by bees. Think about it. A bee knows how to do this incredibly complex, perfect work right from the second it's born. He called it an innate art. It's not something they go to bee school for. They just know. And he argued that this should be a real reality check for us humans and our pride. I mean, really break it down. For us to build something, we need teachers, years of practice, all sorts of tools, rulers, hammers, you name it. And even then, we mess up, right? Our work has flaws. Now look at the bee. No tools, no teachers. And what does it build? A geometrically perfect honeycomb. Every single time. This little bug has a level of mastery that we humans can only dream of. So for Theodore, the bee isn't just a cool bug. It's a living lesson in how to behave. He saw their super organized, efficient little society and thought, wow. He called it a confutation, which is a fancy word for a smackdown, of our own human messiness and selfishness. He really believed we're supposed to look at bees and take notes. Okay, so we've got the cosmos, the human body, the bee. And you might be thinking, Okay, cool examples. But for Theodoret, this wasn't just a list of fun facts. These were the first, crucial steps in a much bigger, much more ambitious argument he was building. His whole argument is laid out in a work that's basically a series of 10 talks, or discourses. And everything we've talked about so far, the stars, the eyelashes, the bees, that's just the warm-up act. That's just from the first few sections. And this is where you can see how smart his whole approach was. He builds his case step by step. First, for 5 whole sections, he sticks to the physical world, stuff you can see and touch. He builds this solid foundation of design in nature. Then, once he's got you nodding along, he pivots to the really tough stuff, human ethics. Why is there poverty? What about suffering? And he builds all of that up to his grand finale, his theological mic drop moment, which for him was the ultimate act of a caring designer. And this quote, this really sums up his whole perspective. He's saying that our need to create things, to build, to paint, to make music, that's just a little echo of a much bigger creator. The things we make are like shadows competing with the truth. It's a powerful thought, right? Our best work is just a faint copy of the real thing. So, after all this, Theodoret's ancient argument kind of leaves us with a challenge, doesn't it? If you decided to look at the world through his eyes, just for a day, what would you see? Where would you find your own proof of order, of design? It could be something huge or something tiny. He found his answers in the stars, in his own body, and in a simple bee. The question is, where will you find yours?